All right. Hey, everybody. Good to see you. See people popping in here. So, welcome to another episode of Joy Pancakes. And we're going to make some pancakes for you. Anyone not familiar with what we do here? This is not a request, words. This is not a request stream. This is a chance to just hang out and watch some really detailed long form pancake art get made. And so yeah, just sit back, relax, hang out in the chat, and we'll get started. So I'm going to be doing one or two pieces from the show based off the show Star Trek Discovery. I've been doing those for the past couple weeks, so I figured why not one more to finish it off, make it a trilogy. And so I'm going to pull up my references here, and then we'll get started. Let's see here. Got an album full of references. Okay. So first what I'm going to do is character Georgiou, and this was she's no longer on the show now. The last episode was her last episode, so I figured this one would be appropriate. Great episode too, but so one thing I'm doing a little different this week. I haven't done this before. This is a little bit of an experiment. I am doing every color I have is a shade of blue. So all the way from like the darkest of blues, almost black, and just like a navy, indigo, and we've got like a more of a sky blue, and then we've got these two, which are fairly close, but one's has more of a greenish tinge to it. And then this guy here too. And then white and plain batter. So very similar to what I do with whenever I just use different shades of brown, but I wanted to try to use a different palette with a similar, but using a similar style, I guess. So we'll see how that pans out here. Pun intended. All right, so I'm gonna switch to. So this is. I'll show you the reference I'm working from. So this is the. Switch to the overhead here. So this is the reference I'm working from. Oh, we're still zoomed out from this morning. We did a stream this morning for a private stream, and we're zoomed back in. There we go. I'm off center too. One sec. I'm gonna fix that real quick. You can see, y'all could see me drag the camera over. There, that's centered. All right. So we'll get started. I'll turn on the auto switcher so it switches cameras for me, so I have less to do. Yeah, this is the reference that I'm working off of. Well, see that the light's kind of shining on it. It's a very interesting character because it's in the first season of the show, the original Georgiou dies fairly early on, but they brought her back from a different timeline or different universe, the whole multiverse thing, and in the multiverse, she is not the same person. She's a pretty terrible person, as a matter of fact. Somehow endearing, but whereas the other one was the exact opposite. All right. Anyways, enough of that. I'm gonna get cracking on some pancakes here. Let's see here. Just kind of looking at this reference and seeing how I want to approach this exactly. All right. And as I wipe away my very first line, so how's everybody doing out there in live stream land? Hopefully you're all staying warm, because I know I've been freezing my butt off the last couple days. I already feel like that's... Oops, a little off. Yeah, no joke. It's taken to wearing lots of beanies lately, as I'm sure anyone who watches our streams on a semi-regular basis has noticed, because I'm freaking cold all the time. I'm already cold all the time. It's just the nature of my being, but lately it's been even more so, extra cold. tip action here. Just gotta clean up that line. So the past couple weeks I've been doing more lineless pancake art. Keep making her cheeks bulge out too much. I think this week I'm gonna go for more of a vector-esque style, at least for this one. But if I get to the second one, we'll see if I decide to stick with that or if I decide to try to do more realistic looking style. No, I would say it's not unrealistic to do it this way. It's just using dark lines to outline everything. Got the ears in there. Thing I always get a little concerned with whenever I switch to a more vector-esque style is it's something I'm more used to doing live, so I always worry that I'm going to do it in a way like more akin to how I would do it live versus getting extra detail in there. Because if I do it lineless, you've really got to focus on the details, whereas I've got years of practice of building up all these little shortcuts from doing it live to try to get done fast. What I'd like to do is to be able to just do both. Fast vector, detailed vector, realistic, kind of be able to choose on a whim. Which I guess that's sort of the ideal for everyone. It's like I want to, whatever I think I want to do at that moment, that's what I want to, that's what I would like to be doing. And maybe next week I can do some Cyberpunk 2077 pancakes. I can do the PS4 ones where they don't have any textures on their face. Those would be pretty easy to do, right? Just getting the hair in here, just drawing the shapes, basic shapes. Anyone that draws a lot, I'm just trying to learn to draw, has probably find out real quick that you can't draw. You don't draw individual strands of hair unless you want it to look like they have weird spaghetti hair that's falling out. And usually you just find the shapes that the chunks of hair make and how those different pieces lay on top of each other. And that's how and then you can imply some strands in there, but you still wouldn't draw very many of them at all. Zoom out a little bit just to get all the hair. She's got really long hair, all the way down to the middle of her back. So all right. Starting to feel a little bit like Philippa Georgiou. Oh, hello, Mandarath. How you doing? Thanks for stopping by. So this last episode of Star Trek was very interesting. It's the way they. I'll freely admit I'm not as well versed in the original series as many, because I came of age during the Next Generation era. So that was the one I grew up on, and that's the one that I watched it. I watched it with my parents as a kid as an excuse to stay up late, because that was the only way they'd let me stay up late, even though I didn't actually like it when I was a kid. Then I came to love it as an adult. And but the original series is always a little. It wasn't camp at the time, but it hasn't aged in a way. A lot of it feels really camp, intentional or not. But this last episode, they actually brought back a character from the original series, the Guardian of all time, which I didn't even realize that. The character was interesting enough without knowing the reference. But I was just reading an article about it, or about the last episode, and they were pointing that out, and I was like, that's pretty neat. They've got lots of little Easter eggs like that in there, so they're still well written. But if you also happen to be someone who is familiar with the deep cuts of the Star Trek universe, then there's something there for you. Anyone who saw the Next Generation is familiar with Q. Carl, the Guardian of all time. It have a feeling they're going to be using him a lot more. It seems like he's going to be their Q in a sense, which will be interesting. He's just an old dude. He's just it's hilarious because he's, you know, this big this nearly omniscient being, and but as far as his appearance, he's just an old dude in a fedora and a pea coat. He just looks like somebody's grandpa, and he's just very folksy and down to earth in the way he talks. It's entertaining, to say the least. All right, so we've got our basic outlines here. And then on this particular painting / photograph, I mean it's a processed and photograph mostly. There's a little silhouette of a starship, most likely Discovery, in the background. I'm going to put a little bit closer than that just so I don't make my pancake giant, because I have to attach them. But, I'm going to add that in there. Just a little extra flavor. Yeah, one thing I would love to see is there's been rumors swirling around for a while now that Quentin Tarantino wants to do a Star Trek movie. And I, for one, say yes. I would love to see what Quentin Tarantino would do with a Star Trek movie. I mean, also, like, what would he do with a big budget? I mean, because no matter how you shoot it, there's going to be lots of special effects. I don't know if we've ever seen. I don't think Quentin Tarantino's done really anything that involves like heavy CG. I mean, heck, he still shoots everything on film for Christ's sake. I know of similarities and stuff where he's whenever he realized that like, you know, the likes of Kodak and stuff were going to stop making film stock. He's got a warehouse full of film just for him, just so he doesn't have to make the transition. Respect, but also I don't get it. It's perfectly plausible to make something shot on digital look just as good, if not even better. But you can definitely make it look just as good as anything shot on, 35 millimeter. But, I'm just a pancake artist. What do I know? Right? Okay. So, got our outlines. So now we're going to start. And decide if we want to start with our highlights or if we're going to start with our highlights. So, this is the, all right, so I'm going to use some white highlights, but only for the absolute. I'm going to fix this just a smidge. It just juts out a little too far. It's a little more rounded than that. I'm going to use white highlights on the very, very edge of the face, because it looks like there's probably this photo was taken, there's definitely a key light involved, as there always is. So, but I don't want to use a ton of white. I know last week, I think I went a little too hard with the harsh highlights, and could have used a softer touch. So that's our goal for this week. It's a good rule of thumb with a lot of this stuff. Think how much you need, and then it's like the number one rule of accessorizing is take off the last thing you put on. That's probably a good rule of thumb for a good metaphor for pancake art or art in general. You have this inclination to sort of go ham and just put in an absolute insane amount of details into something that may not have them, may not need them. Sometimes it's necessary. I mean, there's a lot of details in this. So it's one of those things where there's so much detail already here. I don't think I need to give it any help. I think it'll do just fine being detailed without any of my input. And really, what I'm going to be doing is playing with the colors anyways, because this is definitely not an all blue photograph that I'm working off of. So that's what's going to make it interesting, not how many details I can shove in there. Okay, so I think that'll work for that particular, our darkest shade. Oh, it's going good. How you doing? Is Salamonica. I think I said that right. So we're making some pancakes, as we do here. So I think what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start stepping some of the shading down, or I call it graduating is the term that I made up for it. Maybe someone else uses that term, I have no idea. I said it to Dana the other day and she said I really like that, but it was very obvious that neither of us had heard that term used for art or painting. But I also don't know that many painters. So, you'd think I would know more, considering my occupation, but the trick with this is, so I understand what's going on, is that we're going to slowly work our way down to whatever our base color is going to be. So that way it gives it a gradient. And I'm doing it as close to the edge as I can, and then also while it's a little wet still. And they can actually, some of those colors can blend together and actually create more gradients or just more interesting stuff. That's a little bit outside your control, really. It's a little bit of chaos sort of injected in there because the batter's still wet, so you are pushing it around a little bit. But if you're careful, you can pretty much keep everything as it is and still. All right. This. Some more indigo down here just to finish that little bit off. Okay, so here's our indigo there. I'm gonna let that sit for a little while. Just kind of let it think about what it's done. And move on to the ear here and get a little bit of that shading in there. And do pretty much the same thing that I did with the face, using our navy here, a really, really dark blue. And then going over the outside edge with the indigo. And we're going to let them set for a little bit. We're going to move on to the hair. Okay, there we go. So now, I think we've got some pretty prominent highlights here. So I definitely want to make sure those pop. So we may even start with these two here for the highlights in the hair. And then we'll use this inside the highlights for the implication of hair, the strands, a few strands you'd be able to see. I don't want to do too much. Just a little bit. It's just texture, just a smidge of texture. It's really all it is. Okay. And even then, a lot of that will probably get lost in the mix. And that's okay. Because really, you don't even really need the strands themselves. You can get away with quite a bit just getting the shapes in there. One nice little thing too, I've got these really thin tips and they're made of polycarbonate, so they're very smooth. And the nice thing about them is you can actually, if the batter's still wet, you can actually drag. I mean, you can do it with the other ones, but this one's so fun, you can, like, I'm not putting more batter down when I do that. So you can drag out your lines quite a bit. I mean, it's getting really thin, but that can be an effect unto itself too. Because if it's thin like that, it can be slightly transparent. So whenever it dries out a little bit, and whenever you put it on the back of it, will end up shining through. That's how I got, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I did this one. Hi there. So this one is Eddie Van Halen, and if you look at the background, I'm really happy with this background, more so than almost anyone I've done. It almost looks better than the Eddie Van Halen in there. But the layers of the actual background, everything's so thin, there's not really much shading or anything in there. But then because the back of it, the black went over the back, it all shined through the semi-transparent batter, and it gave it this depth that makes it look, at least from a distance, the background almost looks like a photograph, like especially the background, like the bokeh of a photograph. It's a effect I'd love to be able to replicate on a regular basis. It wasn't totally intentional, so that's always interesting when you accidentally do something really cool and you're just like, oh shoot, I hope I can do that again. I gotta figure out why that happened. Same as the doing the shading on Georgiou's face there. Just going in the other direction, going from well, this isn't really the other direction, but just graduating my highlights down to a different color, and maybe a little bit in there too. And check my phone here, make sure it's not something important. I know sometimes Jeremy messages me because I've forgotten to do something. All right, we're good. No, he's called me once. I've been going for like 15 minutes. Like, hey, the stream's down. Huh? Who have I been talking to the last 15 minutes? All right. So we got that. So let's do some shading on the hair here. Start. So we got some highlights, and do the really heavy shading so they won't be in a position to run into each other. Just the darkest shades, and then we'll graduate them down so they sort of meet in the middle. Only use the bat phone when needed, yes. And I appreciate that. I just never know, because my phone vibrates the same for everybody. So maybe I should make one specifically for you, Jeremy. So that way, if something bad happens if I hear that particular ring or vibrating pattern during the stream, I'm like, oh no, something happened. What did I break? Okay, I'm gonna do just to have some texture in there, and we'll see how much it shows up. Because I know a lot of times when I mix in like this, a lot of it doesn't really show up. It's almost, but sometimes you get some really neat swirls and stuff in there that kind of shine through the other side. So we'll see. We'll toss a little indigo in that really dark shaded area. See what happens. If you notice, I just kind of try stuff a lot. I'm just like, let's see if this works. And honestly, that's how we get better at this. And that's, I don't know if I don't know if I could do it any other way. I like figuring out how stuff works. And I can't figure out how stuff works, at least I can't, unless I do it, unless I try it and screw it up a bunch. And eventually it'll click and I'll be like, oh, duh. That makes so much sense. Okay, I get it now. I've been living that experience I came to Pancakes to be a pancake artist. I ended up becoming a pancake artist and a full stack developer for full stack web developer on top of that, which has been very much the same thing, as I'm sure anyone who does any sort of programming knows. I went to school for computer programming. I've dabbled for many, many years, but I never did anything in depth. I never had to really go deep into anything. The last couple years, I most definitely have, and it has been one heck of a learning experience. Breaking stuff, figuring out how to fix it, figuring out how to do things, how to make stuff work in a intuitive way that other people can use. Because it doesn't matter if I make the coolest thing in the world if nobody else can use it. It's pretty useless. Okay. So we've used our darkest, our indigos. So we've got these two guys here. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fix the eyes. The eyes. It's a hard one because she turned. I think we're okay. All right. Anyways, so we're going to start working in the other direction now and start putting our highlights in. I do want to do one thing though. I want to get some of this shading is got some fine lines to it. And I want to make sure that I get those in there. Sometimes when you're doing highlights, it might get lost because you won't have the room to get in there. So I want to make sure I touch on that before I do my highlights. Okay. I'm putting down these highlights very thinly because I want to be able to back them with a different color to sort of tie them all together with the rest of it. So I'm going to purposely lay it down so that they have some transparency. zoom on just a little there so I can. Just put some down and then you can spread it out. Okay. You can get some, make it into like a more finely tuned tapers and all that fun stuff. Okay, here's that. And we got this little bit here, like that. So here's that, and we're going to use those some highlights, our white, we've used our plain, so we've still got these 4 colors to work with here. Which is good, because usually the problem that I run into is that I'm running out of colors to work with. And then I end up having to scramble to figure out how to make it work. I made sure to make plenty of variety this time around. Or just enough variety to be the correct term. Okay. A little bit of a bright highlight in here, but again, I just want it to be really thin because I don't want it to be, I want it to basically just to lighten up whatever I end up putting over the back of it just a little bit. Okay, Georgiou has brown eyes, so we're gonna have brown, so we're gonna use 2 shades of blue. One little trick with eyes is to try to get multiple colors in there. So I'm going to use 2 shades of blue and of course the shine of the eye itself. But getting those multiple shades in there will actually give it a depth and make it look more like real eyes, which obviously is kind of what we're going for. I gotta get closer for a second, I can't see where. Try to stay out of the shot, but keep the back of my head out of the camera sometimes I gotta lean in and actually see where something is because the line work will be so well blended in that I can't really tell. I want to make sure I'm actually coloring in what I think I'm coloring in. Okay, got that. So, corner of her lips are very dark, cast in shadow. So we'll make sure we get that in there. And then this as well. Okay. We'll come back to that. And we'll go to the hair now. We'll go back to the hair so we start graduating our darkest shade here. So this is basically what we're just going to do is slowly work our way to the middle. This is the part where it starts to be a little more broad strokes. I'm not as concerned with all the little details and stuff at this point because all the little details are already done. There's that. And darkest, and looks like we worked our way up to. Did we work our way all the way up to this? Oh, did we? I think we did. Okay, so we used our indigo would be yeah. So indigo would be the last one we use on the hair. And then that'll be done. So we'll come back to that and do that here shortly. One thing I've kind of ignored here is the little bit of the uniform we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and start on that. Use this indigo to just sort of provide some separation between the hair and the back of her uniform. Because that's pretty dark as well, so there's not a whole lot of shading happening, but gotta make sure they don't blend together into one thing. Okay. So got that. Put some highlights here on the uniform. So we're not going to go all the way white with our highlights here because it's a dark uniform. So. this. I think we're ready to have to figure out which one of these is lighter because they're kind of the same. Yeah, we'll go with the more greenish one to graduate down our plain batter. Since it's the least blue, so it'll probably have better effect. And these little highlights, add in some more less intense highlights that were there, didn't need that full on blast. So here, this one here. And go over the whole plane that I laid down with this lighter, really light blue. Just to give them there. I feel like that'll be more a better blend. So I'm gonna let that sit for a second. We're gonna go ahead and fill in this hair our indigo. We're hitting the home stretch on this one. Stay in the lines there. Let's see where is it here or the ear? It's hard to tell sometimes. Okay, well, let me see where the ear ends. The reference, and that'll. Okay, I think. I know that's definitely the ear. Okay. Okay. Yeah, almost colored in her hair, or her ear. As her hair. That would have been an oops. Okay. Oh, thank you. Hey, what's up, Sky Kid? I appreciate that Calic Ink one. It's fun to do. I really enjoy that I'm able to do this. Okay, so now got the uniform to finish off here. Gonna again degree of separation between the hair and the uniform may not be there in the reference, but sometimes you just gotta imply things that aren't actually there. Okay. So, I'm going to go back to face here. So we got indigo on there, and then I got relitus, so we're going to go. So this is going to end up being this one right here is going to end up being our fill. And then we got our indigos out of the way. So we're down to our regular blue, the royal blue, with no frills, nothing else attached to it. Okay, where is ear ends there. Alright, so I got a little bit of work to do on the ear here. Not a lot, but just a couple things. Alright, so I'll let that sit for a second. But while that's sitting, I got all this to do. I think these are close enough that it probably won't do me a whole lot of good to add those in there. So. Finish off the uniform here. Okay. And now, basically, I think we're whites of the eyes. Don't want to forget the whites of the eyes. Could have been an interesting mistake. Okay. And the rest of the lips, which we're gonna do those in our normal royal blue here. Okay. So now we're just down to this last little bit of fill, and that'll be it. We'll go ahead and one little thing. There's a couple empty spots. I don't want to wear the hair. I don't want to blend the hair with the face. That's not important, is it? Right? No, nothing to do with the stream. All right. Yes, it's right there. There. This is what happens. You start to see all these little things. You're like, oh wait, what about this? What about this? But we've got most of it all in there. I'm gonna rough out a couple more little things. You can be such a perfectionist when it comes to this stuff. I see these little details that I might have missed. May make a slight difference. And I just want to make sure that I get them. Now whether they will or not, that's a good question. Okay, we're going to turn this griddle on here about 175. I'm going to start cooking here. I'm going to give it an outline here, border to, oh, yeah, it's getting warm. Put my hand on it. Ooh, oof, oof, oof. Chunk of chin right there that I almost didn't color in. Same there. Ooh. All right. I'll be right back. I'm going to grab different colors here. Should have had these ready, but I didn't. So I'm going to do multicolored border here. Gotta be fast. Okay. Also, I've got to put some backing on there but first. Okay, so we're going to do. Oh, don't tell me it's clogged. Ow. Okay, well, no yellow then. Oh, shoot. Not get any backing on this at all. This is to give it some extra structural integrity here. That batter that's been sitting on there for a while does not have the same structure. It's much thinner, more brittle. Let's see if I want to cover it and let it cook through. Okay. Man, oh man. Wow, that tip is really clogged. Holy smokes. I really wanted to use that yellow on there. Oh, next one. Be a good social media boy here and film this. Film the flip. Oh, thanks, Claudia. Zimmy Wolf, yeah, thanks. We are almost there. This one's actually probably almost ready to flip since the front got a head start on the rest of the batter, so the back of it's wetter than it normally would be by the time I get to the flipping portion. So still, this middle part's still needs a little more work. All right, I think we're just about there. I feel like it wants to move. Oh, there it goes. Once it starts moving, that's when you know. Alright, so I'm going to switch to the overhead here. So you guys got... Oh no, my hotkeys stopped working. Of course they did. They always at the most opportune of times. No? Step over here and do it manually. The old-fashioned way. Looks like it switched to the overhead as soon as I walked over here to switch to the overhead. Alright, y'all ready? So, here we go. 3, 2, 1. I'm mad at that. That's interesting. That's really cool. I like the way the colors work together. Yeah, there's a lot of potential in there. Doing single color, multi hue. I don't know what the pancakes. Something I've wanted to do for a while. Alright, now we go to the back. Make sure we're cooked all the way through on the back. Set a second more to go here. Well, actually I'm gonna crank it just a little, crank it to 200 degrees. Not quite hot enough to boil water. I'm gonna grab another griddle out of here. Did all of our griddles move? Did they get moved to another place? Because they're not in here anymore. There they are. They're over here now. Oh, I'm gonna switch to a new cool griddle. Oh, just about stepped on my microphone cable. Okay. There we are. Still not working. Why you do that, camera? Or OBS. And of course, every time it switches as soon as I go to switch it. There we are. Georgiou. So now I'm going to pull up my. I'll turn this off first of all. Yeah, and here's Carl, the guardian of all time. It's amazing. When I say guardian of all time, literally, the man lives in time. So it's if your grandpa was an all-powerful, well, I don't know how powerful he is. He can open portals through time and do all sorts of crazy stuff, but I guess it is powerful. But anyways, it's a very good character, and he doesn't answer any question with a straight answer, which is always fun. Very Star Trek. Okay. Oof, this one looks, I'm gonna grab a different one. This one looks like it's been, like somebody scraped it up with using some of the henna tattoo bottles on it or something. We'll use those for a few minutes, but we've moved on to I don't know, not quite Doctor Strange, but I could definitely see the connection. I mean, I don't know all I don't know all the history of the Guardian of all time. If he's if they're a singular life form, or if it's sort of like the Q, where they're an entire species. So if there's more Carls out there, but I'm sure I will find out. Not for a minute though. The season's not over yet. There's Mandalorian's over. I haven't seen the last episode of that, so nobody spoil that one for me. I'm excited to see what happens. Exactly. All right. So here comes Carl. Hope y'all are ready. Actually, I mean, I don't want to shoot myself in the foot here, but I dare to say Carl's going to be easier to draw just because it's not a, I don't know, he's an old man, not a pretty woman. I make him ugly. He's not ugly, he's old. But so I can't, it's a little harder to screw up. Especially since they're not here. It's a little different when you're doing them in real life. If you're in real life, when you're doing them at like an event, you got to worry about offending the person you're drawing. Like, how much should I make this actually look like you? Most people are self-aware enough to know what they look like. I always say it's like pancake glamour shots. If anyone remembers those things. I'm sure your aunt has one hanging on the wall. It seems like that's everybody that's when I first discovered them. What is this hazy looking picture of my aunt and too much makeup in the top half of a dress because they're always from the shoulder up. Luckily his hat's black, so I can extend it out a little bit here where I got the brim a little too short. Long old man ears. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I hope to one day have long old man ears too. It's literally the ideal scenario. are all starting to come together. Sometimes I forget that I'm actually better at drawing from a real life reference than something that's already heavily processed or traced or even drawn. Sometimes if it's a cartoon character, that's one thing, but like if it's something that's represented in real life, like there's this impulse to use a reference that's already done the work for you as far as line work, shading zones and all that. But a lot of times, like what I'm saying now, I'm just like, oh yeah, it tends to go a little bit faster when I've just got a picture of the guy, because I know how to, it's because it's all interpretive stuff. So it's when you're drawing from real life, so interpreting somebody's interpretation versus just creating your own. It's once you get to a certain point of practice, and it starts to make more sense to do it that way, which I definitely was not always of that mind, but I remember specifically after a good chunk of time of being a pancake artist, realizing that I preferred doing portraits over doing cartoons. Because if I'm doing a cartoon, it's got to be spot on. You can't screw anything up or it'll look off. But if I'm doing a portrait, like I said, it's just an interpretation. So there's a lot more room to play and, really screw up and still capture the essence of who that person is or what they're emoting. It's because, like I was saying, in cartoons, even, like Tom and Jerry and stuff, that's an interpretation of a mouse. But if you were to just give me a mouse to draw from real life, I'd give you a mouse that looks like my interpretation of a mouse. I'd give you my Tom and Jerry. And I can draw my Tom and Jerry far quicker than I can draw somebody else's. If that makes sense to anybody. If it doesn't, feel free to tell me I'm a dummy face, because both are equally true. Hey, what if your future character logo is your face, Sky Kid? Did you think of that? Got a really tight knot on that tie. Props. It is not. It is not. It is a knot. But, he really has it pinched down. It's impressive. Unless it's a clip-on. I've never been good at telling those apart, even though I don't own any clip-ons, and if I wear a tie, it's a real tie, because why not? Especially with the internet. Like, my dad didn't teach me how to tie a tie. The internet did. And if I forget, or if I want to do a knot that I'm not familiar with, the internet. I definitely have more very many ties since the end times started. Even though I sort of came to the conclusion that because I've got a closet full of suits and blazers and all this stuff, and so I was just like, you know what? There doesn't have to be an occasion for it. I paid for all these clothes. I'm just gonna wear them whenever. You know, I haven't really broke out the ties though, but I've definitely been wearing more of the blazers and stuff, just coming in the studio because who cares? Why have a closet full of clothes you're not going to wear because it's not the right occasion? Like, what's that even mean? Alright, so we've got our basic lines done. Give a little more shoulder over here. Just because you can't have too much shoulder. Alright. So let's start giving this old man some wrinkles. I don't want to use put a few in there, but one thing is you generally don't want to use your darkest line work for wrinkles, almost regardless of age, because they'll just look too deep and make even though this guy's, well over a few billion years old, but doesn't look a day over 70. Feet in there. very squinty look about him, which makes sense. I mean, they're hanging out in the snow, so. I'm actually worried I might have made him look a little too young. Alright, we'll start there. That's a good place to start. So now we'll get highlights. There's no really bright highlights here, so I don't think I'm going to use any white. I'll use some plain batters, a couple select spots. But just a little bit. That's really it. So we're going to use these two guys for our highlights. I always forget. Almost always, the chin has a shadow along the bottom of it. Because like right there, right where the line is, it actually starts to curl in before that. So you usually get some sort of shadow there. Something I forget a lot of times. And getting some little bit stuff underneath. Nose in here. Trying to eke out just a little bit more depth from all of this. He doesn't like he's an older guy, but he has a surprisingly small. He looks his age, but he's not particularly wrinkly. See what I'm doing. It's mostly Okay. So we'll come back to that here in a second. I'm going to add a little bit of shading to the brim of the hat because it's almost always guaranteed there's going to be a little bit of a shadow there. I'm not sure which one's going to end up being my fill. So I'm going to be careful not to use what ends up being my fill color for shading and texture. Okay, so now he's got this wacky pattern all over his pea coat here, so I don't think I can't necessarily replicate it, but I can fake it to a certain degree here. Maybe I just, one of those things where it's like, do you try or do you just say it's not, you're not gonna capture it, and so don't bother. Just put some texture on it and the approximate direction of everything and see how that turns out. Tie with red stripes, no red, so got a blue shirt. So I think we'll use our royal blue for the darkest parts of the shading here. Stripes on the tie. I'm going to go back over those with white as well once they dry out a little bit. Okay, so we got that. We're going to move on to the hat here. Black hat, so going to use, there's really no shading. It's all just highlights whenever you're doing something like that. So yeah, so we're going to start actually with our lightest highlight and work our way down. That's the smart way to do this. Okay, and the rest of that will just get filled in with the black or the navy. It's not really black, there's actually quite a bit of blue in there, but it doesn't shine through very well in contrast with the rest of it. But okay, so where did I get my white out for? Oh yeah, Gonna put a little white outline along the edge of these tie stripes. There's Carl's tie. So let's go ahead and fill in his hat while we're at it. Okay. There we go. Getting very close here. Well, probably feels closer to me because the hat being the easiest thing to fill in here. See that as my batter pours outside the lines. Gotta be careful with that. Sometimes if you lay on the batter too thick, especially when you're cooking on a cold griddle, it'll run and the line work won't contain it. Do it just right, your line work will act like little pancake batter walls. Keep it from spilling over. Okay. Trying to make him a little more squinty because he's very squinty. Okay, now we're going to fill those in. I need to put the really any shine in his eyes because they're squinted so tight. I don't want to lose that. So this big old bright shine. So we're gonna there we go. Indigo up top. And my navy bottom. Just set that on there. All right, so I got that. So we've got, what have we got left here color-wise to move our way through? These are very close colors. Not too. Not going to do much with these actually. These on the other hand. So this is going to be my fill again. So we're going to get some more shading in there. Sorry, Asane. We do got a sale right now. You can get a T-shirt for like $8. That's the best I can do for you, my friend. But I'm glad you like our stuff enough to want our merch. So it's still pretty cool. That gray hair. So. Alright, now coat. We're going to just use indigo for our darkest shades. It's just very loose. I usually don't get too crazy with the details when it comes to clothes and stuff because it's more, they're almost there more to just give structure, like, so it doesn't look like just some, disembodied head. So I don't worry about, I don't sweat the details too much with that. Just want to get the, just want you to know that he's wearing clothes. Okay. And I think we're down to our fill on the other side. If there's anything left to touch base on here, and a little bit over here on this here, I think. But yeah, I think we're ready to fill, guys. So. Oof. I thought I was filling in his mouth earlier. I was not. That's his bottom lip. Thought it felt small. I think I caught that. And that's why these Q-tips. That's not. And I was doing that like it was his bottom lip. It's not his bottom lip. Okay, so now let's do that the right way. So we've got there. There. Clean that corner of his mouth up just a smidge. Okay. A little bit in there to give his lips some texture. Now we're ready for the fill, guys. We did it. Carl made it. Guardian of all time. Yeah, guys, got our silver hair up there. What we're gonna use for the silver hair? No, might as well use these two. These are the closest two things I got to gray. Let's just mix them all together up in there. Why not? They're pretty close to the same color anyway, honestly. Mix them with the hopes that they would be slightly different, because one actually has a little bit of purple in it. But alas, was not meant to be. See, look what happens. I'm just like, wait a second. What about this little bit right there? What about that? That little bit right there. A little bit right there. Jeez. Those are little highlights. It's been a long day, guys. My day started at 6 a.m. So I'm going for a while here. Okay. I do that and then I'm just like, wait. There. Yeah, whatever's left is what's left. I'm not gonna spend all day. Alright, 175. Give him a nice white outline. Now, got an unclogged yellow, we can actually do what I wanted to do last time. There. Oh. Batter left over here. Let's toss this in my fill. So I can start putting a backing on this once we get cooking. Usually I try to wait until it starts to cook a little bit before I start pouring the batter on, so that way I don't end up inadvertently pushing lines and details out of the way. Make sure the very front of it's nice and solid so I can't screw it up. Ruin my pretty border, spilling over the edge. All right. Just about there. Start loosening this bad boy up. I got one flip, I might as well get them both, right? Guys ready? Y'all ready? Here we go. Carl, guardian of all time. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. I'm happy with that. Thanks, Sky Kid. It's a great Carl. Next to our Carl, we got Georgiou. Got the Georgiou's entire finale of her arc for the entire show on 2 plates. She went back, spoilers, anyone who's being from another universe was tearing her apart at a molecular level, so I guess that's the thing. So she was able to go back to a time before the timeline split. Of course, so long ago that everyone she ever knew in either universe won't be there. Yeah, I'm really happy with that Carl. Still a little wet on the back there. All right. So I put a lot of batter on the back there because it's still a little juicy on the back. So once this guy finishes cooking, I'm gonna plate him up and do a quick little roundup both our pancakes here, and we'll start winding down. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Oh, it's going on the fridge. Right next to, well, next to the Saru, and the Georgiou and the Michael Burnham that I'm gonna redo because I think out of all of them, Michael Burnham was the one that I was the least happy with, which is fine. But I definitely, the Michael Burnham got an extra large chin on my version. But that'll be off stream. Next week, we're gonna have a completely different subject. Oh, thank you so much. We're streaming on multiple we're streaming on Twitch, Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. So we've got a few more. I don't know what the exact number is. It's a late stream, so they tend to not be. Looks like we got 10 people. So we've been hovering between like 10 and 25. But normally our streams are between 1 and 3. We've been trying this late stream that I've been doing just to see what it's like, to see if it performs better, worse, or the same. I kind of like them too, because everybody's gone. So usually there's somebody always here when the other streams are happening. At this point, like right now, I'm the only one here, so I got the whole studio to myself. It's just very, very chill. And I like that. I can use that at the end of the week. Okay. So we got our Georgiou and our Carl. There. No, I wish my keyboard would work consistently here. Someday. It's very strange because there was at one point in time where we would live stream and we would regularly, especially on Facebook, we would have we've had up to 15,000 people watching at once on Facebook, but algorithms change. So you know, usually on our Sunday stream, that's our busiest stream. We'll have, you know, maybe 200 people tops. Usually between 80 to 150. Nature of the beast. Still pretty good though, all considering. And I watched Kevin Smith do a live podcast the other day, and he only had 300 people watching. And that's Kevin Smith. He's way bigger than all of us. So, all right. So I'm gonna switch to our wide here. I gotta do it the old-fashioned way. We'll see our stop. Oh, I gotta set up the switch to the overhead automatically. I don't want you to do that. There we go. All right. So that's it for this Joy Pancakes. I will be back next Friday, same time, same place. Sunday we're doing our request stream. Actually, I won't be back next week because next week's Christmas. But we are doing our request stream on Sunday, and then Monday and Wednesday I believe we'll be doing Joy Pancakes as well, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. So feel free to drop in and hang out, and we'll see you soon. Thanks for hanging out.